Hey, Rye the Car Guy here, and today we are going to be doing a radio install in the Boxster. Now, I went with a media receiver radio for the Boxster, and I did that for two reasons. I did it for space, because now that you aren't having a CD being put into the radio, it's much, much smaller. And when you're working in cars like the Boxster, space is at a premium. And so if you're not going to be putting CDs in it, don't get the CD player because now you have a lot of extra space to work with. And secondly, there's really no place in the Boxster to even put CDs if you wanted to put a CD player in, so I figured why even do it? And thirdly, it's actually a lot more cost effective. You can get a decent media receiver for under $100, so why not go for it? Secondly, we're also indoors, obviously, and we're doing that because when you're doing a radio install, there's prep work you can do prior to actually going out to the car. When you get a radio, it's always going to come with your wiring adapters, okay, all your harnesses. Now, I buy all my radios from Crutchfield, and Crutchfield is not sponsoring this or paying me to say this, but I absolutely love them. And the reason that I love them so much is that they give you, when you buy the radio, they either give you at a severely discounted rate or completely free in my case, installation harnesses that plug into the actual harnesses that come out of your vehicle, which is huge. It's absolutely huge. The reason I like that so much is that you don't have to cut the wires in your car. You're not actually doing any damage to your vehicle to install your new radio. For instance, this here, the wires that come out of the Porsche plug directly into this. And then you wire this to your other harness, and then this plugs into the radio. So it's effectively like an adapter. So that way, you don't have to actually cut into your Porsche wires and wire these directly in. 9 times out of 10, the wires that come out of the radio are going to have little tags on them, just like this. So you'll see that the yellow is memory, black is ground, the red is the 12-volt constant, and the blue is going to be either your power antenna or, in some cases, what they call remote, which is for your subwoofer. And then all of your speaker wires are the same story. It tells you, front left, front right, rear right, rear left, whatever, all that stuff. On the other hand, the wires that come out of the adapter almost always are going to correspond with the colors that come out of the harness that came with the radio. That is not always the case. So what you need to do is the wrapper that these come in will tell you what each one is. So it's a map. So don't just assume that because you have purple on both ends that they're going to go together. The purple from the harness in the car could be the front speakers, and in the ones on the radio could be the front, right? Or the rear, whatever. So you want to make sure that you're using this map plus these names on the harness from the radio to make sure you're making the same connections. Now, connecting is super easy. You really just want to pull these off. I like to twist them to make sure they're kind of nice and uniform. And find your corresponding color. Twist that as well. And then the easiest way is to just make a cross and then twist them together. And then what you're going to end up doing is laying this down kind of so it's in a line and then just taping around it with electrical tape. It's really that easy. If you want to use a butt connector, you can. It ends up taking up a lot of space behind the radio, believe it or not, if you do butt connectors on all your cables. So I generally, in this application, I like to just electrical tape it and make sure it's tight on both ends, and then do that with all of the wires. So go ahead and do that with all of the wires, and once you're done, make sure they're clean, make sure there's no copper poking out, make sure they're not lumpy or big, and then once you go to the Porsche and start taking it apart, you don't really have to worry about doing these connections once you're in the car. You do it in the comfort of your home, and then it's ready to rock when you are ready to install the radio. So let's head out to the Porsche, and I'll show you how to take out the existing radio and get this guy put in. Now, the radio I decided to go with was a Blaupunkt Rio de Janeiro 120BT. And the reason I did that is, first of all, again, we talked about the media receivers being smaller than CD players. And then also, it's a German brand, so I figured why not? We're putting in a German car. It's kind of, paying homage to the fact that it's a German car. along with the harness that came with the kit from Crutchfield, also they included a radio remover, which we can use on the Porsche. I mean, I already have one of these, but we'll use these. I'll show you how to use this one. And then also a little antenna adapter. So apparently some of the European cars had different types of antenna adapters and antenna connectors, and this will adapt to that. And since we're pulling the radio out, I'm actually going to put in a new cubby. So I don't know if you looked at my old Porsche videos, but the cup holders in mine are an absolute disaster. They're completely broken, and frankly, it's classic BS German over-engineering of the cup holders. So I'm not going to put cup holders back in. I'm just going to put another cargo area, since space is at such a premium for this car. I'm going to put in a little cargo area instead of our cup holders. Obviously, if you're watching this video just for a radio install, you could ignore that portion of it. But the Porsche dash is modular, so you can take out a cup holder, put this in. You know, you can move your AC controls and your radio in all different slots. So I'm going to take advantage of that and put something different in. So let's go take out the radio and start swapping stuff out. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the negative battery cable. And you do that by opening the front trunk of the Porsche and turning these little knobs until they loosen, just kind of turning them sideways, pulling it off, and that exposes the battery. Now we'll just get a wrench and we will go ahead and remove this negative battery cable. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the radio itself. And if you have a stock Porsche radio, you're going to have to use the keys that came with that kit. So these keys it's just 3 different kinds effectively, and we're going to use the shorter one, all right, with the little notch taken out. It looks like a little knife sort of. So each of these little notches are going to point to the inside of the radio. So you're going to put the right one in like this and the left one in like this. And you just push them in until you hear like a snap. There's one, there's another, and now they're locked in place. So you just effectively pull, and in mine it's really tight. There we go. Perfect. So now that it's out, all right, we're going to just slide it all the way out here. All right, perfect. You just have a few connections. You have your antenna, you have what's actually is my aux cable, which I have a video on if you want to keep your stock radio. And then your 2 main connectors. And those connectors are simple, just push the little button and pull them out. Same with this one as well. So push that in, pull it out, and then same with your radio. So your antenna. Pull that out, it's away. Now the little connectors you still won't be able to take out even once the radio's out. So on the side, you're gonna see a little blue kind of a push button. If you push that in, just with your finger, those will come right out. There's one, push it in. Of course it's gonna, there you go, perfect. And then just set that aside. And that's it, that's how easy it is to take out the radio. Now, I'm gonna take out the cup holders above, these wonderful pieces of just works of art, as you can tell. There you go. We're going to take those out prior to putting in the actual, basically the radio shell, since I'm replacing it anyways. And then also it's going to open up more space and we'll have a lot more room to work in here. Now to remove the top cup holders, there should just be a bezel. So if you just take out your trim removal tool, here's a bezel. And then there's just 4 Phillips head screws, and hopefully this whole thing will just slide right out. All right, so those are out. And let's just see if we can gently slide this out. Get in there. Okay, so I'm seeing some resistance. So what I want to do, before pulling these out and just kind of doing any damage, I want to take off these side panels, which is just your button panels. Now, let me see how that's going to go here. There we go. Just pop them out with a panel remover, like this here. There we go. Nice. That was really easy. So that's the left side. Just do the same on the right. Okay. Now this side has buttons, so be careful on this side. You don't want to do any damage here. There we go. So there's our, good golly, those are huge connectors. Well, whatever. We don't need to disconnect them, so just kind of push it to the side just to give yourself enough space to get your cup holders out. There we go. Come on. Perfect. So, okay. Since these were so kind of damaged and jammed in here, it was kind of tough getting them out. But now that they're out, I can say goodbye to these. See ya. Oh, that felt good. Very, very tired of those. So now that we have this exposed, you can see we have some screw holes in the top. Those we probably won't be able to reuse. The panel, or excuse me, the little cubby hole that we bought doesn't have screw holes in it. So hopefully it just slides right in here, and then we can put the radio below and let it rest on this. We may have to put the radio up top depending on how this is all configured. So let's move on and keep removing stuff. This here, this cable, this is actually my addition, so I don't want you to think too heavily about this one. In fact, let's just see if I can, yeah, good, there you go. Don't worry about this one. If you did install this, then obviously you'll have to remove it because it's not going to do any good for the new radio. But if you didn't, don't worry about that one. Now let's go get our little cubby hole and our radio and see kind of how we want this configured. So whoever told me that this was a modular system, that you could put a cubby where the cup holders were, doesn't know what they're talking about. This is not a modular system. I've even pulled a few things out of here. I pulled this out to kind of see what's interchangeable, and it turns out just about none of it is. So that being said, I'm actually going to put the frame and the bezel of the cup holders back in, and then we can worry about dealing with, you know, the modular system of this another day. So next we're going to want to prep the dash for the new radio. And what's involved in that is putting on our FM antenna adapter, putting in this surround for the radio to slide into, and connecting the wiring harnesses that we wired up earlier. So let's start with this here. This just slid off the radio, so this was just on here like this, and you effectively just pop it off by pulling these tabs up, slide it off, and this is what we're going to install into the area first, and then the radio just slides directly into this. On here, you just have a bunch of little tabs, and all we need to do is slide this into place and just push these tabs up so it holds onto this outside kind of bezel here. So just move all your wires out of the way. So I'm going to push that back here. Slide this in. This is probably going to be a pretty tight squeeze. There we go. Push it in until it's all the way in. All right, so take a look at this. Make sure it's level all the way across. And then you want to take a flathead screwdriver and find the tab that is basically the closest to the end of the bezel and push down on it. And just do that all the way around, and then that way it's going to be locked into place. All right, so super easy. I just pushed a few tabs in with my flathead screwdriver, and everything is kind of tight and in place. That's the quickest part. Next, just plug in your adapter for the FM radio. That just snaps on like that, and then that's going to plug directly into your radio. And then you want to grab your adapter, right, your wiring harness, and plug in the factory wiring harnesses into this adapter. Now, if you can see here, these are keyed. So the little snap, the little connector for this one is a little to the left, and this one's in dead center. So that's going to be, I mean, it's kind of foolproof. You just can't plug them in the wrong way. So we'll plug this one in here. See that? Perfect. Plug in the other one. Awesome. So there's the factory wiring harness plugged into our wiring harness. And now these, we just plug into the radio. Basically the same story. They're keyed just like the Porsches. So plug that in there. Plug that in there. All right. And then you have your antenna. Plug that in. All right. Now, it goes without saying, but before you're plugging these in, make sure that you're pulling the wires through the plate that you just installed, not like up here, and then obviously you won't be able to slide it in. But now that everything's connected, you just want to gently manage your wires. All right, so let's kind of push this all back here. And the main goal here, and I'll show you like this, is to make sure that nothing is pinched or twisted or that has too much pressure on it. So I'm just kind of doing a zigzag pattern. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just gonna kind of do one fold and then another fold here and just guide everything in. And the beauty of taking out, you know, even if I wasn't gonna replace or try to replace these cup holders, it's kind of good to take them out anyways. It only takes a few minutes and you have all this space to kind of make sure you're not messing anything up. So again, we're just making sure nothing's pinched. And then I'm going to reach back here and just make sure everything's guided correctly. Great. And then push until you hear a snap. All right, so once it's in place and it feels solid, just give yourself another reach back here. Make sure that nothing's pinched or set on. And honestly, if you look at the size of this, this was a lot bigger. The radio we just put in was about that big. So you have a bunch of extra space back here. There's really no reason why anything should have any pressure on it. Once you're satisfied with it, just grab your faceplate, slide it on, and there you go. The radio's in. Now the rest is really just going to be, you know, sliding all these back in place, putting everything back in place. But as far as installing the radio, that's really it. So let me snap all this back into place and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, so obviously I went ahead and put my negative battery cable back on because the car is working. Make sure you do that. You'll find out pretty quick whether or not you did, so it's pretty straightforward. Now that the radio's in, it looks pretty clean. It looks better than the original in my opinion. I'm going to create another video when I end up dealing with these cup holders. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing. I might just buy the cup holders again and wait for them to break and then buy them again for $100 and wait for them to break and then spend another $100, so on and so forth. But we'll see. And then also just some quick tips for this job. You know, really straightforward. Just be gentle when you're pulling on things. These keys, they work pretty well, but just be gentle when pulling the radio out because there is a lot of like cheap plastic kind of bracketing back here that you can snap if you're not careful. And if you snap it, you kind of have to buy this whole front face again. Actually, something similar to what I did with my Xterra. And then also, again, just make sure all your wiring connections are nice and tight and clean. And when you're sliding this in, make sure you're not pinching any of the wires. And really, that's as simple as that. I think this is another one of those cases where people say that Porsches are hard to work on, and they're really not. I mean, this was actually a really easy job. You know, we had, what did we use? Flathead screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, a 10 millimeter for the battery, and a little plastic puller. Nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary. We were able to accomplish everything, and now I have a radio from this millennia. So good stuff. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, put them in the comments below. And please visit me on my Patreon page if you love my videos and want me to do more of them. So have a good day, Happy New Year, and keep watching.